Christiane, it seems like the State Department is clearly dialing back the rhetoric, saying this doesn't need to get any hotter.
Yes, look, 24 hours ago we were here discussing what seemed to be a very serious situation. But you're absolutely right. I think they've come to the conclusion that no matter what they say from North Korea, you can't respond in kind because it simply ratchets up the tension. So from the State Department and from the Pentagon today, a clear desire to step back off this very confrontational ledge. Question is, how can all sides get away from their backs against the corner right now?
Ratcheting it up, does that play into North Korea's hands, Fran?
It does, Anderson, because remember, you know, this is, while the rhetoric, the volley back and forth is bilateral between the U.S. and North Korea, the rest of the world is watching. And this is not the only country we have a serious proliferation problem with. There's Iranian negotiations over their nuclear program. The world is watching. And so what you don't want to do is force yourself, as Christiane infers, into this direct confrontation with North Korea and leave no one away to talk their way out.
To someone who's watching this, I mean, who looks at North Korea and says, why is this young dictator doing this? Why would he have all this bellicose rhetoric? What's in it for him?
Well, I think, look, everybody's been trying to put him on the psychiatrist's couch, if you like. People are trying to figure out who is he, what is he doing, why, all the questions that you and all of us ask. It's really difficult to understand. But I have to say, I think that this is sort of emblematic of many, many years of a dysfunctional relationship between North Korea and, frankly, the rest of the world. But the United States is a superpower. The United States does have interests. It has its allies to take care of. It has its own people to take care of. There has to be some kind of better diplomacy, better engagement between these two countries. Now, the U.S. doesn't want to do that, does not want to, quote-unquote, reward North Korea, thinking that diplomacy equals rewarding. Obviously, that's not what diplomacy is about. It's trying to engage and get a better situation with your adversary.
Fran, from your perspective, does negotiation mean giving in to extortion or giving into extortion?
Well, it's interesting to me, Anderson, the backing away from the bilateral confrontation is exactly what the U.S. needs to do, right? North Korea wants to make this about a confrontation, a threatening tone towards the United States. And what the United States ought to be doing, the people who are nearer to this threat are China, Japan, our allies in the region, and it was the whole purpose of having a regional negotiation of which the U.S. was a part. It was what President Bush emphasized during the Bush administration, and I think what you're seeing now, this sort of toning down the rhetoric, is an ability to bring the regional allies in to apply leverage.
But again, this is where it all gets stuck, because this basically means the United States, the superpower, is outsourcing one of the most important negotiations, and that is about proliferation, whether it be with North Korea or Iran. Even in Iran, there are no bilateral talks. And look, we might laugh. I concede we might laugh. But Dennis Rodman, when he went to North Korea, said that the one thing that this leader said was, get President Obama to call me. Now, okay, we might laugh, but he didn't say, I'm going to bomb.
Did you ever think, Christiane, before you would be quoting Dennis Rodman?
Frankly, no, I didn't. But he's the only one who's talked to this leader. I mean, if you're trying to figure out what's going on, I guess what I'm trying to say is there seems to be this inability to get this business done.
I mean, there's the risk of an atomic strike, but also probably a greater risk of a conventional strike. There's talk of moving ballistic missiles, I think, to their coast. How big a reality is that for South Korea and for the region? It's obviously not something that's going to hit the United States.
Well, yes, it is a threat. But let's be clear. North Korea has more failed missile launches than it's had successful ones. Certainly, the U.S. has intercept capability, and that we would put at the disposal of our allies in the region. We certainly have exercises and defensive exercises with our allies in South Korea, and so it is a threat. It is a threat that we have to be taken seriously. But we have the relationships and the capability to counter that. And, as is clear, we have all sorts of national assets that are deployed to give us an early warning if they're serious, like the movement of mobile systems. It's not flawless. It's not sort of perfect. But we've got a lot of capability, Anderson, to understand it before it happens, to deal with it if it does happen, and to work with our allies in the region.
Well, also North Korea, I mean, has a lot of limitations. I mean, yes, they have these capabilities, but I mean, they have serious hunger problems. They have an army which is used to plow the fields, which has got to get into the fields at some point soon in order to harvest. They have a lot of limitations.
They do. Their policy, though, is military first. It's been going on for the last several decades. And the fact is, according to all the scientists, and particularly the last American nuclear scientist who was there in 2010, they don't believe the North Koreans have the ability to put a bomb on a missile, in other words, to
A
make a
nuclear
warhead. No,
right.
exactly. So they don't think they have that capability, as Fran was saying, not even to launch into South Korea. What I worry, and I don't know whether you agree with me, is that both Iran and North Korea are now saying to the West, you're going to deal with us as if we were nuclear powers. And I think that that is the road that they're on right now. What North Korea is doing right now reminds me of what Iran was doing in 2005, when Ahmadinejad very publicly told me exclusively, told the United Nations that we're going to continue with our nuclear program and don't tell us not to enrich. Now, the Iranians say they don't want weapons. The North Koreans do. But treat us as nuclear powers.